Did you know data brokers are making billions selling your personal information, usually without your consent? That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Edge of Liberty podcast.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is the 16th of February, 2026. This is the Edge of Liberty show. You can tell that it is, in fact, the Edge of Liberty show because not only do I have it here and here, but I also have it here. Now, if you want one of these, if you really want one of these, you can go to the SHR Media shop, go to shrmedia.com. You'll see a t-shirt and an ad right above the menu bar, and you can click on that. It'll bring you to the shop. And if you use the code FREEDOM, you'll get 10% off your first order. Got a lot to talk about this evening. Thank you again for being here. I hope you have a good weekend. I had a good weekend. It was long, but it wasn't a bad long. It was just got a lot done long, which I'll tell you, accomplishment's always a good thing. So I will take it. I got to start off. Oh, man. You know, my levels are all jacked up here. There we go. That's better. You know, I don't know what it is about Democrats, but they can't help themselves but go to conferences they don't really need to be going to and embarrassing the shit out of us as a nation. Now, I know they do that at home. They did the semi-shutdown of the government. By the way, the shutdown that does nothing to ICE because ICE is funded, as we all know. And some of them, anyhow, voted for that funding. But then we're going to turn around and they're going to partially shut down the government, and then get on a plane and fly over to Munich for the Security Council. Now, Munich is the Davos for security. It's a lot where the globalists like to go and pat each other on the back to congratulate themselves. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But my favorite part about it is you have Gavin Newsom, who just can't help but be Gavin Newsom. This is him during one of the interviews.
But I want to remember all those images of masked men, the secret police, something familiar in Germany.
You're in Munich, Germany.
Images of masked men, the secret police, something familiar in Germany. Mm-hmm. Those first images came out of my state, the second largest city in the United States of America. We saw 4,000 National Guard federalized. First time. We'd never seen anything like this.
That's not true. We've seen the National Guard federalized numerous times. We saw it in California during the LA riots. So I did a whole segment on that and why that's just bullshit and the different acts that have happened.
And 700 active duty Marines sent not overseas, but to the second largest city in the United States of America. Military
buildings that you were not protecting. Finish the sentence. See, they weren't out patrolling as we were talking about. Gavin's doing the I'm running in 2028, so I'm going to try to rewrite history, and this is how it goes. No. Once again, they were brought in to LA in order to protect the federal buildings that Gavin was not protecting.
The streets of my city, masked men showing up, unaccountable, no IDs.
They're not unaccountable. They all had badges on. There's absolutely accountability, and that's entirely a bullshit lie. So you thought, and look, we all know why he's there, right? As I said, Gavin's running in 2028. He's not doing well in the polls. That's a fact. He's trailing behind Kamala pretty big. And he's just, one of the things that I wish Gavin would remember when he gives little speeches like that is what
like more
and said, which is going to be this.
Nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
We most certainly roll our eyes at you, Gavin, on a fairly regular basis. So you'd like to think that was the worst that the Democrats would do, why they would be over there. And I had a hard time. I was coming up with the list, and when you're setting up your show, you have to have an order of things like, well, this is kind of like I want to lead with this, and then this is kind of second. Usually they just all show up. Like you can look at it and say, oh, this is better here, this is better here. And I had a hard time because at a security conference in Munich, which you think would be semi-security related, there was a women's panel on human rights and women's rights, I should say. That was led by Hillary Clinton. We'll get into more of what Hillary said later, because I don't know who she's trying to hurt, but she's hurting everybody right now by saying this. But hold on. Here is what I thought was, when I first started going through these files or these videos, is that this was the most ridiculous thing ever on the Women's Council. Was this guy.
Incredibly kind words. It's an honor to be here with you, Secretary Clinton. It's an honor to be here with another trailblazer, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. And of course, it's an honor to be here with my fellow panelists and the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, as well.
That is, as you know, Representative McBride on a Women's Council, which is ironic because he's not a woman. We all know that. We all know McBride's story. Now, as I've said many times in the past, I don't care who believes what and how you want to dress, as long as you leave it out of kids and yada, yada, yada. But when you're going to a women's conference, and I don't know why the feminists are not losing their goddamn minds over this. When you're going to a women's panel and you have a penis, and you are selected to be on the panel, is it really a women's panel at that point anymore? No. And I know I've beaten this horse dead a million times on this show, and I'm sorry for doing that, but I'm going to do it again. It is unbelievable to me when there is a man who will turn around and say, oh, I can be a woman, only better. And then there's a group of other women going, oh yeah, no, you are doing that better than women. Ladies, how do you feel about that? How do you feel when a guy is doing it better than you? Because clearly that's why he was chosen to be on this panel, and not, I don't know, any other woman that was there. Nancy Pelosi is in the crowd. As much as I'm not a Nancy Pelosi fan, at least she's a woman. This dude's not a woman. I'm sorry. You can say whatever you want to say. He's not a woman. And when you have a woman specific council and you invite on a dude that has a penis, it's not a woman. And again, I don't care what he wants to dress like all the time. This isn't even necessarily about him. This is about the virtue signaling of the Hillary Clinton panel to say, we're going to have a women's panel, and here comes a dude to tell us what it's like to be a woman. And I'm not saying that he hasn't had his own struggles, whatever. He has, fine, cool. But in that specific setting, It is the most hypocritical thing when the Democrats have unbelievably run with feminism for years. And then they do that, or they come out and tell you that women are too stupid to get an ID or remember where their birth certificate was or their marriage license. It is, I mean, you want to talk about misogyny. You want to talk about men and women's spaces. It's insane. So I was like, okay, that's going to be the most ridiculous thing that was said or done at this conference. But no. Here's a Czech politician with Hillary. Hillary's in a lot of these, just for the record. And he wanted to point a couple things about how Hillary Clinton feels about President Trump.
Well, first, I think you really don't like him.
That is absolutely true. But I really, not only do I not like him, I don't like him because of what he's doing to the United States and the world. And I think you should take a hard look at it if you think that there is something good that will come out of it.
Peter. What I think Trump is doing in America, I think it is reaction for something for some policies that really went too far from the regular people, too far from reality. So we saw the cancel culture. We saw the woke revolution. I don't agree with the gender revolution, the climate alarmism.
Which gender? Women having their rights?
Let Peter go on.
I think there.
So she's trying to point out, what went too far? What went too far in this conversation, right? And he's pointing out all the different things that the left has pushed in this country over the last 8 years, and has pushed so far to the left that it's hard to recover. And she's being an asshole about it, which is fine. That's Hillary Clinton. She's an asshole. We all know that. But then at the same conference, Hillary starts talking about things that
a legitimate reason to have
in the left's politics, and here's one of them.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There
Clinton.
is a legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way.
Now, what's incredible about this is the same day because she's wearing the same outfit. So she was snapping on the Czech politician saying, what went too far? What went too far? And here she is telling you what fucking went too far. The hypocrisy is unfreaking believable. She even said immigration went too far. Yes, we all know that. Everybody knows that, Hillary. That hasn't been up for debate for a long time. But you're going to snap back at that guy for saying, well, what went too far? And then you're going to debunk yourself, and then you double down on it because she didn't just end there.
And without putting children...
speech about immigration continued.
More people were deported under my husband and Barack Obama without killing American citizens and without putting children into detention camps than were in the first Trump term or this first year.
And let me tell you why, Hillary. Because much like Obama did to the cops and the left did to the cops and with the BLM riots and everything else, nobody was dehumanizing Border Patrol, ICE, and immigration during those days. Nobody was protesting every single time. They were doing their constitutionally approved job. The Congress signed it into law, or the Congress passed it. The president signed it into law, right? And you guys weren't fundraising off of it, causing people to impede in law enforcement activities that led to these incidents. So yes, they deported more. Good point. We need to play catch up. Thank you for saying that, Hillary. I appreciate your stance on immigration. I'm glad to see it only changed for the last 14 years, and now you're back to where you were way back when. But the simple fact of the matter is, much like cops, and people forget this, cops were being ambushed, getting gas, writing reports, eating lunch, eating dinner, because of the anti-police rhetoric that they've now repackaged towards ICE and immigration because they can fundraise off of it. I will say it again. I will say it 1,000 times. They don't give a flying fuck about illegal immigrants. They have you emotionally charged to think they do. And they've convinced you that if you go out there and you attack these law enforcement officers, that you are doing the right thing. And you're not. You are absolutely not. Deportation was fine under them. She just proved an amazing point. When they do it, it's okay. But when the other side does it, even if it's the same fucking thing, then it's a problem for them because they can't fundraise off of it to say, no, we agree with that. It's only fundraising. When you look at, and we're going to talk about the SAVE Act in a little bit, the same thing, it's about fundraising. What do they say? 66 million people won't be able to vote in the next election. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, and you know it. And all of you out there emotionally charged running around because you have gotten to this place where you've been so addicted to the screens and so addicted to feeling involved in something that anything they say, you take and run. Sean, you're saying the same thing Trump's. Yeah, that's why I voted for him. I believed in this before Trump came down the escalator. Most Republicans did. Most conservatives did. We believed in borders. We believed in strong immigration laws. We believed in not overspending the budget every fucking time. And yeah, the Republicans have still sucked at that, but it's better than it has been. We believed in our Constitution. We believed in protecting our country before Trump came down the escalator. And I could prove that because I was on Sackheads years and years ago saying the same shit that I say now, just like a lot of people did. But Hillary and the other ones have corrupted your fucking minds into fucking thinking unbelievably wrong things about our immigration policy. What'd you think when Biden let in 10 to 15 million illegals? 3% of our population. You've realized what a 3% population change does to a country? It's not true. Illegal immigrants contribute more to the economy. Yeah. When they do those fucking studies, you know they don't count under 18. They only count 18 plus, the taxpayers. They don't count the kids in those studies. Go look it up. It's easily findable. I know you'll scroll for 4 seconds on TikTok. Oh, look, I agree with that one. So I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to come on social media and tell everyone they're a dick. But you won't actually read and do the studies. It's like the Epstein files. It's the same fucking thing. Trump was in it 38,000 times. Yeah. Here's a little hint, fuckface. Most of it was people mentioning Trump. And the ones that weren't were Epstein bitching that he got kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. They have been fully unredacted. We'll talk about that in a bit. And guess what? It's not there. What you were promised wasn't there. Just like Adam Schiff was telling you that, oh, we have video of Trump in Russia being urinated on by a hooker, and I get the real Russia collusion information's coming out any day long. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Those politicians are strippers on stage, and you're the fucking idiot who's throwing singles at them. And then when they get off stage, they sit in your lap and tell you how much they love you as long as you keep coming back to see them. Oh, I love you so much. You're the best. Here, give me $100 for a lap dance. Oh, that's fantastic. And then they go out the door with the bouncer and they leave in his fucking 2005 Camaro. And you go back home wondering what happened. That's what these politicians are doing to you. That's exactly what they're fucking doing to you. Because then you have Hillary who comes out and proves the whole immigration argument, the ICE argument, everything. Yes, unfortunately, people perished. But let's look at causation. Right? Why did Renee Good think it was okay to ignore cops and fucking drive at one? Because she was told that she was right. That what you're doing is virtuous, so you'll always be safe. Why do you think Preddy kept going to these conflict points? Well, that's proof. We saw it. He'd been at several one. We have him on video vandalizing a federal vehicle a week before, and he was armed then too. He wasn't just driving by and he saw that. He went out of his way to confront the cops. And it's unfortunate that they both perished. It is unfortunate. But the politicians are the one that did this by encouraging this bullshit. Meanwhile, you have Hillary, who's still a prominent Democrat. As much as they hate her, they love her because the money she'll fundraise. Who's coming out and saying, on one hand, to the Czech fucking politician, when did we go too far? And then either a few hours earlier, a few hours after, I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't matter. It's the same day. She's wearing the same outfit. She turns around and says, yeah, we went too far with immigration. Oh, my husband and Obama deported more people. So it's a good thing, right? So what you're saying is that every fucking Democrat has been lying about this for years to fundraise and cause, pardon me, and cause all of this outrage that you see because they have been emotionally and mentally hijacked. And there are people in the chat room, I guarantee you, I don't even have the chat room open, who right now are trying to tell me that I'm wrong. But then they're going to go back to their echo chambers and share the same shit on TikTok and tell their friends why they were right and I was wrong. And repeat the same things, and none of them are going to look into the facts. None of them are going to look into the evidence because the Democrats didn't tell you to. And you don't do anything unless the Democrats tell you to. I had to take a break. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp edge. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality. We fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch the Reaver in action. He is here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing is for sure, he always tells it like it is. The Reaver of Common Sense.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on SHR Media Network, simulcast with our friends over at KLRN Radio. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being in the chat. Thank you to our moderators in the chat who are doing a great job. Thank you. I saw a couple people, Mr. C. Doug, Jack Boozers in the chat. I saw Mission Ready Men in the chat. Reaver Common Sense. The Phantom's over in the chat. A couple other people, Fluxerel, Norris, few others. Appreciate you guys being here. Even if you hate me, I don't give a shit. Speaking of unhinged lunatics, I'm going to get back to Munich because I'm not done. I have a few more videos and images to show you. But this is what the left wants. This is the response that they're getting, and they're happy for it.
We would really only have to take out 3 or 4 of them publicly for the rest of them to fall in line.
He's talking about government officials, people in the Trump administration, and he's calling for 3 or 4 of them to get taken out. You say, Sean, that's a one-off. Not a lot of them on the left are like that. Not a lot of them on the left would ever call. That guy's got a problem. Yeah, I agree. He does. But here's another one.
I don't think it would take that many of them having something happen before maybe they started to fall in line, is all I'm saying. You know, just like 3, maybe. Publicly.
Mm-hmm. Again, just calling for outright violence against public officials is entirely fine when the left does it because they're being told that it's virtuous. And we saw a lot of Democrats over in Munich. Here's a couple still shots. You're going to see a reoccurring theme here, who they're hanging out with. That's right. They're all hugging on Alex Soros, the big money guy, because everyone knows that that's what they're really there to do. They're really there to jerk off Soros and get more money out of him because just like Daddy, he likes to buy elections. Now, let's go back to the idiots in our government that we're speaking over in Germany. Here's another one. This is AOC. AOC had a moment. Man, she was really on fire, wasn't she?
And should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
Now, this is a no-brainer question because we've had a defense agreement with Taiwan for decades. It's kind of like NATO in Article 5, right? If something happens, we've already said that we will come to the defense. So this is a really simple answer. Well, we have the agreement. We need to abide by that agreement. However that turns out during that, a battle would depend on how China attacks. Obviously we don't want that to happen. Nobody wants this war to happen. However, we do have an agreement, and unless we change that agreement, we should abide by it, right? That's a simple answer. That's a political answer. It's a politician answer. It answers the question without giving yourself away too much. That's how a smart politician answers it. Now let's see how AOC decided to answer it.
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very longstanding policy of the United States. Mm-hmm. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Yeah, but that wasn't the question. The question is, what can we do to stop it? That's a separate question. The question is, what if it did happen? And she stammered and stumbled all over her words. I can do that, but I'm a moron in front of a video camera. You have to go over there just absolutely ready for these sorts of questions. This is not a new thing. It's not like the Munich Security Council is new and these little breakout panels are all of a sudden going to be easy questions. Not unless Hillary's running it. So I was like, okay, well, AOC just absolutely gave herself the worst sound bites to be used against any future elections. But then there's Governor Whitmer, who had her own moment. It was like they were trying to fight each other for the worst representation of Democrats in Munich.
On Ukraine, what does victory look like? Ambassador?
No, please. I'd love to hear your answer.
It is. The two that I am on the panel with are much more steeped in foreign policy than a governor is.
Okay. That's going to get used against Newsom and her. I'm sure she's going to put herself in. I'm sure she's going to run, and then she's hopefully going to get picked for VP. It is what it is. But for her to say, I'm only a governor, so I don't know foreign policy, is, again, one of the worst political answers that you can give in that situation. You're outing yourself. And I'm glad she's dumb enough to say that.
But, I do think that Ukraine's independence, keeping their land mass and having the support of all the allies, I think is the goal from my vantage point.
Ryan, what does victory look like?
Again, if you're going to go over there and you're going to do the I'm running for higher office, but I'm not running for higher office yet, then you need to be smarter and prepared. And this is what happens when they speak in these echo chambers in this country and they only go to town halls that are 95% Democrats or whatever, is they don't get hard questions. That wasn't even a hard question. That's a medium question, right? Here's a political answer that you can give. This is not my politics. This is just the answer she could have given. We'd like to see Russia withdraw from Ukraine and Ukraine's sovereignty respected and their territorial bounds returned. That's what the end game looks like. If I'm her, that's the answer I'm giving in that moment. But I'm expecting to be challenged with questions on this level. And this tells you how they are not challenged at all in this country by press and media. And they haven't been for years. The left has not been for years. You can try this revisionist history bullshit. Oh, the politicians or the media is in Trump's pocket. But no. The media is not in Trump's pocket. Fox News at best is a centrist. Okay. Yeah, there's some more right-leaning news, but that does not offset NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, just about every fucking newspaper minus 5 national newspapers. Okay. They don't get challenged in this country, and things like this expose them in that moment because you're asked a serious question that you're at a fucking Security Council meeting in Munich, Germany. Ukraine's 800 miles away, less? And you weren't ready for a question about Ukraine and what the end goal result is? It's unfreaking believable. It's just, they show you what tremendous morons they are when they ask a question. Now, I'm only going to play a minute of this. Because I get other stuff I got to talk to. Marco Rubio, and again, I will accept the fact this was a prepared speech. Oh, they were asked questions off the cuff, Sean. This is a prepared speech. Shut the fuck up. I know it. This is a prepared speech. The key word there is prepared.
But the euphoria of this triumph led us to a dangerous delusion that we had entered, quote, the end of history, that every nation would now be a liberal democracy, that the ties formed by trade and by commerce alone would now replace nationhood, that the rules-based global order, an overused term, would now replace the national interest.
And look, we've been saying this for years on here, well before Trump came onto the scene. Look at the EU. The EU is a great example of that. That's exactly what the EU is now. The EU is just an updated version of the USSR, like it or not. The EU controls all the trade in most of Europe. So he's right. And then the expectation is, if you don't agree with this trade agreement, or you don't agree with this country's choices, or if they don't agree with yours, you're supposed to somehow just roll over and do whatever they want, no matter what it does to your country, which is why Europe looks like a pile of fucking garbage right now.
And that we would now live in a world without borders where everyone became a citizen of the world. This was a foolish idea that ignored both human nature and it ignored the lessons of over 5,000 years of recorded human history. And it has cost us dearly. In this delusion, We embraced a dogmatic vision of free and unfettered trade, even as some nations protected their economies and subsidized their companies to systematically undercut ours.
I'll say this for the people that don't understand that. There are a lot of bad countries that said one thing and did another that would absolutely make things harder for America. That's what that boils down to.
Shuttering our plants, resulting in large parts of our societies being deindustrialized, shipping millions of working and middle-class jobs overseas, and handing control of our critical supply chains to both adversaries and rivals.
And admittedly, at home, both sides of the aisle were guilty at feeding into that. 100%. The left more than the right, but both sides had their hand in that cookie jar. Deindustrializing this country and sending shit overseas like China was going to make it clearly, like we don't have a closed atmosphere where all of the dirty oil that they use, all the coal factories that they're opening every day, all of the fucking filthy habits that they have and the nuclear waste dumping that they do weren't going to affect everybody. So if we control it and we do it at home, we can at least do it better.
We increasingly outsourced our sovereignty to international institutions while many nations invested in massive welfare states at the cost of maintaining the ability to defend themselves. This, even as other countries have invested in the most rapid military buildup in all of human history and have not hesitated to use hard power to pursue their own interests. To appease a climate cult, we have imposed energy policies on ourselves that are impoverishing our people.
Yes.
Even as our competitors exploit oil and coal and natural gas and anything else, not just to power their economies, but to use as leverage against our own.
And we know that to be true. We look at China. You look at China, they don't have any of the restrictions that we have. They say they do. They don't enforce any of them. You look at other countries, Iran does it with its oil. They're not supposed to be selling the oil to half the people they do, but they absolutely do. Look, we could be making it home. California is a great example. They have the California blend. We have a closed loop system in California. And then Newsom and company force the two of the biggest processing plants out of California. And now our gas and oil have to be put on a ship and shipped in, which is way, way more than it would be if we just created ourselves, and way more expensive. Newsom bought into that, just like other countries did. Remember when, what was it? Trump was at it might have been Munich a couple of years ago, and he told the Germans, hey, don't close your coal plants. You're going to need them. And son of a bitch, or their nuke plants, and son of a bitch, they're now reopening more. Don't rely on Russia for natural gas, because if shit goes south, which it will, Russia will use that against you. And they did. Because just like Secretary Rubio just said, they invested in all this other shit except for the defense to keep countries like Russia at bay. And make no mistake about it, part of the reason Russia felt emboldened to go into Ukraine is because Europe at the time was not investing anything into their defense budgets as a country, as individual countries, NATO as a whole. And then you had Biden, who he knew would do nothing, at the helm. And that's why we are having even a discussion about the Ukrainian war still, is because it was allowed to happen by capitulating constantly and just not doing what you're supposed to do to deal with shitbags. And then when shitbags raise their head, you point to America and go, why didn't you handle this?
And in a pursuit of a world without borders, we opened our doors to an unprecedented wave of mass migration that threatens the cohesion of our societies,
yes,
the continuity of our culture, and the future of our people.
We saw that with America, 15 million just allowed to walk over the border. We're seeing how much that impacted our, look at housing prices alone. It's amazing with immigration that the people who are pro-immigration don't understand simple supply and demand, right? When you have 15 million, and let's just say half that, let's just say 7 million families that need houses. That's 7 million houses that are gone, or 5 million, or 3 million. Right? That's going to drive up the price because the demand is high. That's how business works. And I know a lot of people are now trying to curtail that into, oh, we have to control renting and people should only be allowed to charge this for that, this and the other thing. No. That's not how a free market works. But if you didn't have those extra 15 million people and all of those homes, however many million it turns out to be, were vacant for Americans, guess what? The prices would be lower, which is why the housing market, the prices are starting to go down a little bit. It's why inflation is the lowest it's been in 5 years. It's why the economy is actually starting to come back. And that's the statistics, whether you like it or not. What do I got before the break? 2 minutes. Play a little bit more Marco's speech, then we got to move on.
We made these mistakes together. And now together we owe it to our people to face those facts and to move forward to rebuild. Under President Trump, the United States of America will once again take on the task of renewal and restoration, driven by a vision of a future as proud, as sovereign, and as vital as our civilization's past. And while we are prepared, if necessary, to do this alone, it is our preference and it is our hope to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe.
That's a ring of a bell right there. That's him saying, look, we're moving in this direction, whether you like it or not. And you can stay the course that you're on, but we're not going to, because we're going to defend ourselves and we're going to make sure that our country is set up for success. I am up against a break. Thank you so much for watching this evening. Please check out our friends over at KLRN Radio who are simulcasting this show. I greatly appreciate Rick and the crew over there. If you want one of the shirts, you go to SHR Media and click on the shirt image right under the banner, right above the menu. Use the code FREEDOM for 10% off. Be back right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Almost missed my cue. It's the final 17 here on the Edge of Liberty Radio and the SHI Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Hey, do me a favor, go to shrmedia.com. We don't just have shows. We have some articles over there that you might enjoy, you might want to read. If you want to educate yourself a little more, we do something amazing. We actually cite our sources. Gives you a reason to look further into what's going on and not just feed your outrage. I know I've been harping on this a lot lately, but man, there are so many people who are just so sure that they're right that they never look beyond the headline. And you see it on social media all the time. It's driving me fucking crazy. Critical thinking is gone. As soon as people feel that outrage button in their body, that soft little special place, and they let somebody touch it, and then they giggle and get all angry, and then they just go out and just say the same shit over and over and over again, no matter how untrue it is, I actually feel bad for them because they won't take a moment to reflect. They're so caught in their echo chamber. It drives me crazy. I'm not done on Munich. I know I said I was going to move on from Munich, but I got at least one more video I have to show you because AOC just wasn't done being AOC. So during Marco Rubio's speech, he was talking about the culture coming to America and his culture being the Spanish, and how Spain brought their culture when the Europeans came over into Cuba and Mexico and South America. And he mentioned the cowboy culture. Now, last Thursday, I was in Mission Ready Men's show right here on SHR Media, and there was some Yahoo in there shouting because Big E wears his cowboy hat when he does his show, talking about cowboy culture and how does he wear that? It's Mexican and blah, 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 blah. And then AOC parroted that. And this was, that whole conversation was before Marco Rubio's speech and this dazzling response.
Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture.
Yes.
My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
Except they did, because horses were gone on this hemisphere for a long time after the planets broke up and they died off. And it wasn't until the Spain brought horses and cows back over and they brought that culture with them did it get to the American hemisphere, right? Yes, Mexico had a large cowboy culture, but why does Mexico speak Spanish? Why does most of South America speak Spanish? Right? Outside of the Aztecs and the natives and Mexicans and the native cultures in South America, it is because the Europeans conquered them, just how most of the world was formed. Almost every country was conquered at one time or another. That's history. Even in North America, when the natives were conquering each other, where do you think the Native Americans got horses? Europeans. Where do you think they got firearms? To massacre each other. The Europeans. And for her to say, oh, I think some Mexicans, well, you're fucking wrong. You're 100% wrong. And he was 100% right. And again, all she had to do is not say anything and she wouldn't have looked like a moron, but she cannot fucking help herself. I'm going to scroll through real quick. I think that was the last thing in Munich that I wanted to talk about. It went from being, I'm going to hit Munich really quick to I was there for 47 minutes on this show and I had all this other stuff. Oh, nope. AOC had one more wonderful moment where she was corrected in real time by the host of the segment who is asking the questions.
So when you run for president, are you going to impose a wealth tax or a billionaire's tax?
I don't think that I don't think that anyone, and that we don't have to wait for any one president to impose a wealth tax. I think that it needs to be done expeditiously.
And interestingly, when I wrote about wealth tax recently, and of course the big argument against this is always capital flight, the US is actually uniquely placed to do it because you guys tax on the basis of citizenship, so people can't flee, you know? And even if you change your citizenship, there's basically an exit tax because you have to pay a tax on unrealized capital gains. So when you run for president...
What she did and it's weird because it's almost like she set her up. She asked her this question. AOC said, oh, we definitely need that. And then she turned around. She was like, yeah, well, you already kind of have it. Really? I mean, you already have it with the exit tax and the unrealized gains tax and all that other stuff. But it just, I would be so embarrassed if I was half of these Democrats over there. And look, what people think of the wealth tax, you see what's happening in California. They floated the idea and people are jumping ship at breakneck speed. And it's only going to continue. So back home, Chuck Schumer's tackling the important things. Which is he announced a plan to designate the LGBTQ pride flag as a congressionally authorized flag. Why do we need that other than to pander? Again, it's this idea that all things American are bad and we need to supplement it with things that aren't American. That doesn't mean that gay people aren't American. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's Congress. People can fly it on any, there's so many other places you can fly flags. Why does that need to be a thing? And what does that say about country unification and trying to get our people to actually get along? When you're like, oh yeah, no, we're just going to start letting other flags in order to cause some sort of disagreement be flown. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Let's see. So there's the Pam Bondi. This was interesting. I wrote this on shrmedia.com and you can read it if you want. So after her hearing with the Oversight Committee last week, Pam Bondi essentially told them, hey, we know everything you searched for because they were government computers and they all had to be tracked on the unredacted files. And then you had Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie come out and name 5 people. By the way, 4 of those people weren't even like anything more than an investigative tool. They were involved in a lineup. They were just smeared on the floor of Congress by congressmen by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. And I'm guessing a lawsuit's coming at some point. So Pam Bondi went out and said, okay, fine. We're going to release literally everybody's name. You want everything unredacted? We were redacting people that weren't involved or weren't important or weren't relevant to the conversation. And they said, no, you have to release everybody. So she was like, all right, that's fine. All these names now are officially redacted. I know you can't see this, so I'm just going to read some of them to you. Beyonce's in there. Hunter Biden's in there. Let's see. Cher is in there. These people are all in the Epstein files, right? So does that mean we cancel everybody? Kurt Cobain was in there. Bill Gates is in there. Rudy Giuliani, Nikki Haley, Tony Higgins. There's a couple other names. Jay-Z, Michael Jackson. Let's see. Melinda Gates is in there. Like I think I mentioned Kurt Cobain, George Conway, Woody Allen, who we knew would be in there, William Barr's in there, Joe Biden's in there. He's in the Epstein files. Let's see, Bono's in there. The list goes on and on and on. Some notable names in there. Some obviously it's the total list. Some that are not. Let's see. John McCain's in the Epstein files. Right? Michelle Obama's in the Epstein files. All of these names are in the Epstein's files. So I wrote in my article that the Epstein files went from something that we dealt with seriously in this country to then it became a political football that the Biden administration, Democrats didn't even talk about for years. Years. Maybe they knew who was in there. Maybe they were afraid of who was in there. Whatever. But they didn't bring it up until it became a political talking point. It was never been about the victims. This was not victim-based. This is fundraising based. This is virtue signaling based. Okay? Because it's incredible to me how they're going to sit there and try to, and again, this is how you know Trump's not really in them, because none of these politicians, outside of a few like Jasmine Crockett, the less unintelligent ones, Haven't said, aha, we got him. Here's the smoking gun. We've seen them all. Here's the smoking gun. No, a lot of these politicians went in and checked themselves and their friends to see their involvement. And I know Ratskin came out and he's, oh, they can't do that. This is Big Brother. But no. You sign all these disclaimers when you become a congressman saying that a lot of the stuff that you electronics are going to be tracked, blah, 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 national security. You sign all those rights away. Shut the fuck up, Ratskin. You know it. And they're freaking out about it because it proved how many of them searched for themselves, their friends, and their big donors. They didn't care about the victims. It's all about self-preservation with these politicians. Admittedly, both sides of the aisle can be guilty at times of this. I'm not saying they're not. Then they released this whole list. And I said, at this point, are you going to realize you were emotionally manipulated? That they ran with this? That they didn't give a fuck ever about these victims? They only cared about being able to fundraise off of it. And it became this huge debacle, and the victims get lost in the fray. Jayapal paraded him out as a political fucking tool, a figure for her benefit. This was really about the victims. They'd have been screaming about this for years, but they didn't. And you know it. We know it. And it's unfortunate that this insanity has gotten to the point that it is today, where it's like, well, everyone who's on the list is guilty. Okay, well, here's everybody who's on the list. Well, not everybody, not everybody. And I broke down. If you go look at my article, based on the Epstein files that were released, I broke down the people who have some serious things to explain, and then others who were just named. Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker's, everyone threw his name out for years. Chris Tucker was asked by a former president. Yeah, he knew who Clinton was. He knew about the cigar. He knew about the lying, whatever. Was asked by the former president and another actor who nobody knew anything about, Kevin Spacey, at that time. This was in 2002. It's before Blackberries were out. It's before MySpace existed. It's before Reddit existed. You couldn't Google this shit. And the former president said, hey, we're doing a mission to Africa, a human rights mission. Will you come with us? And Chris Tucker said, yes. Yeah, I'll go. That seems like a decent thing. And then all of a sudden, years later, it's like, well, Chris Tucker was on the Epstein plane. But Epstein wasn't even on the plane. But there was outrage about it. And that's just for Chris Tucker. Don't get me wrong. He's a funny dude. Right? You have people who are at the island numerous times. You have people like Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman, who had a regular relationship with Epstein. I talked about a couple weeks ago how Trump didn't have a regular relationship with Epstein just because he was a part of the club and the golf club. And he wasn't around. He wasn't buddying up with him. Everything's proven that. I know that everyone wants there to be because you were told there to be. So now you have this emotional outrage to say that there is. But go through the files. Read. Do some research. Actually read the files. Go to Gmail. That website I told you about that had all the Epstein files in a Gmail format, so you who uses your email can search and see what the actual answers are. But this is a problem, and I said this last week when I was talking about Bondi's testimony, how everything has just become so performative with government on every level. And we've created this. The voters have allowed this. The voters have created it. Because you keep giving money to these idiots. You keep supporting them. You keep carrying their water. Like I said, say what you want about me. I've been saying the same shit for years. Trump just came along and happened to agree with some of it. Not all of it. I've shit on Trump too. But don't sit here and judge me because finally somebody's doing what needs to be done in some places and I agree with it. I haven't changed. I haven't been emotionally manipulated. Most of you people were playing video games in mom's basement for years until you were told Orange Man is bad and then they could fundraise off of it. And then you were told that, hey, if you're different and you're special, we're going to get all these people who are social outcasts and stuff and bring them into our fold. And we're going to tell them how special they are and they need to go do violence with Antifa and protest this and protest that. And then we're going to find out that there's money flowing in from the outsides and that there's this whole giant network on social media, signal apps, and all this other stuff that is intentionally disrupting ICE. And then there was incidents. You can have idiots like Hillary Clinton say, my husband and Obama deported more and they didn't have an incident. Yeah, well, that's because you didn't have half the country turned on them. Why they were in masks? Well, because threats against them have gone through the roof. Pardon me. We saw an American president, former president, who was running for office again, get shot on TV, and then we found out a couple months later there's another guy trying to kill him. Right? We know what the left will do. They're aware of it. They have families. They have kids. It's not what they're ashamed of what they're doing, but they know there are psychopaths out there that will attack their families who have nothing to do with it, to try to shame them away from doing a certain thing, to scare them, to intimidate them. Again, constitutionally or congressionally approved law, congressionally approved agency. And violent crime is going down since the deportation started. It's absolutely incredible. I'm telling you, I'm begging you, even all those people in the chat that hate me, not the foreign bots, and I know which ones you guys are, not the ones who are just looking for attention because mommy doesn't pat you on the butt enough and tell you that you're loved and you're special. The ones who truly believe what they're saying. Take a step back. Get out of the echo chamber. Clear your head. Stop scrolling for the dopamine hit. Do some research into that. With TikTok and Instagram and all these other places, how unbelievably bad it is because it programs you, that the algorithm's made to bring you back and it keeps shoving the same content in front of you over and over and over again until you're outraged. And that's where we are today. So I'm challenging you. You can say everything you want in the chat room. I don't care. Challenging you to step out of your echo chamber. Go read some source documents. Go understand the actual roots of problems. Look at causation. Don't just take a 15-second, 30-second video where they clip somebody's comments and then tell you to run with it. Because it's embarrassing for you. You should be better than that as an adult, and you're not. Folks, that's going to be it for me. I'll be back Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here in the SHR Media Network. Please make sure you check out all the other great shows. Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. You have the Reaver of Common Sense, my man, Jersey Joe. Tuesday, Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mr. Ready Men with Biggs E. Tuesday, Thursday night, the bulbous one himself, Speezy's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, is right here on the SHR Media Network. The Lost Wanderer is on a hiatus, but he'll be back eventually for the Sunday night show. And we do have a new show waiting in the wings that we're putting together right now. We have another host that we're excited about, and we'll tell you more about that in the future. Thank you to our friends at KLRN Radio. You can follow me on X, the number 2 Against Tyranny, and check us out, shrmedia.com. I'll see you Wednesday at 8 p.m. Have a great night.